Mike Dunn, the democratic dream is over, if ever it was a reality. What's going on?
Yeah, I think it is over, the democratic dream. Now, of course, the Greeks are blamed for inventing the idea, but it's been around. I mean, just this week, what have we had? We've had governments in Mali, I think it is, Lebanon, we've had Belarus, Thailand, governments collapsing before our very eyes. These are claiming to be democratically elected, but for some reason, the population of the world, America, look, they're just about to go into an election. Guernsey's about to go into an election. It's just this gap between the public and those people who are elected to serve the public is getting wider and wider and wider. Those who are elected seem to have lost the message. 1769, a great day as far as I'm concerned. That was the birth of democratic government in Jersey. That was the birth of it. Where has it gone? Where has it gone? They're having elections in Guernsey. 2 weeks before the election, they formed 3 political parties. What does that say? How ridiculous is that?
Well, what does it say?
Well, what will people know? How can those parties establish any credibility? What are they going to do? Obviously, the states members, it's all about getting themselves elected, isn't it? Because they can see with all the 80 seats or whatever, how many seats they've got, there's just going to be a lottery, isn't it? People will just fill in names, whatever they can. They won't know. So they're trying to give themselves credibility because they don't have credibility. A lot of these states members don't have, candidates don't have credibility because traditionally there's no party system. That hasn't ever heard. Just a few miles out of the main harbour at Sark, a little place, but they're in a state of collapse. The British government is talking about intervening there. They're talking about doing a Turks and Caicos because these little places especially cannot be democratically self-governing. And if big countries like Belarus can get it so wrong, what hope is there for places like Jersey and Guernsey, which are so dominated by this industry, the finance industry, the pirates are running the place? I mean, what hope is there for the ordinary guy to get his point of view? Look at the hospital. Look what's been going on. They talk about consulting with the people, and there's now a lobby group about the hospital. It's been going on for 12 years. We're still forming lobby groups because it's still undetermined. And it's not just the hospital itself, it's the whole health service. It's the whole shebang. And where are the states members who are leading on it? Where are they?
Well, we've got a health minister, haven't we? We've got, he's been out doing his bit publicly, speaking up, holding press conferences.
If you had a health minister in any normal system, he'd say, I think this should be the site, this should be the size of the hospital, this should be how the health service is run. He's not doing that,
But isn't that a dictatorship, doesn't it?
No, he has to put that for the people and the people have to discuss it, but that's not what's happening. We've got a lot of vagaries. I mean, we've had exactly the same with the education this week. A total fiasco because instructions have come down the line from England about how the exam system.
It's the A-level exams. The A-level
exams for children, all run by computers. A total mess up. And we've inherited it. And where's the minister? Where is the minister? What leadership? What local independent scrutiny has there been by our elected representatives of the system which led up to that? They're not talking about his BTEC exams. They were in the same situation. And
GCSEs, isn't it?
Hey?
GCSEs?
That sort of thing. I'm an old fogey. I'm not involved in, but I'm speaking to somebody this week. They're hoping to go to uni next year. They've got no idea whether there will be funding at local level for them to go. They've got no idea. Well, and the other aspect about this is not only states members are not doing what they should be doing. I mean, they're placed in a difficult situation, all that. But we've got all these commissions. We've got, for example, Children's Commission. We've got a Law Commission, a Financial Services Commission, a Gambling Commission, a Care Commission, Appointments Commission, a Charity Commission, Overseas Aid Commission, Information Commission. We've got all these various bodies, besides which we've got bodies like Andium, and we've now got the latest one, this morning's absolute total fiasco, where the Jersey Development Company, or whatever they call themselves now, have announced they're going to build 1,000 houses on the waterfront. Now, there hasn't been a lead up to that. A few weeks ago, they said they were going to build a new Highlands College on the waterfront. And now they're going to do all sorts of huge alterations. And the housing minister was on saying, well, this is the first I've heard of it. Well, What's he there for? What is the housing minister there for? How are the public supposed to engage with this? Okay, a decision has been made. That's what they want to do. They'll presumably spend some money on drawing up a plan so they can consult, so they say, with the public. But there's no consultation. The design, it's already been determined. This is already the scheme. This is it. Why aren't the public involved in this? Where are the states members? Where's the town members? This is an all-island issue. But where is the representation? What are they for? What are elected representatives for now?
The point you're trying to make here is, look, let's sort of cut out the middleman, which is the politician.
Absolutely.
Just go directly to these, are they NGOs? What are Quangos?
We've got loads of things like employment. If people have got disputes, Social Security, it's a Social Security tribunal you go to. You don't go to the states member. If you go to the states member and ask them, they haven't got a clue. They don't understand Social Security law. If you've got an employment dispute, it's no good going to your states member. They won't understand it. They just simply don't understand it. You go to a tribunal, this tribunal. Ultimately, your favourite beings, the Crown officers. They're the ultimate body, totally unelected, of course, totally unelected. And
totally
ultimately,
unaccountable. Totally unaccountable.
Unaccountable. So this is the system we've got. And it's getting further and further away from the general public.
But getting back to that, wouldn't it be the same thing if we say, OK, let's cut out the middleman, the politicians, and just deal directly with these arm's length Quangos? Well, these arm's length Quangos aren't accountable. At least the politicians are accountable at the ballot box.
It would be better. Everybody's saying the civil servants are running the show. Uh-huh. Well, we might as well. I'll take that down.
Yeah.
The civil servants are running the show. Well, make the civil servants fully accountable. In theory, they are accountable. They are accountable. Remember that one that came out on computer, and there was a scrutiny report on computer. It was only the civil servants that could be looked at. The states members couldn't be looked at. The fact that they'd spent £10 million, it wasn't. We couldn't ask the states member why that was. It was only a matter but of course no action was taken, and that's what we've got to give teeth to these commissions if they're going to have them. In other words, it's removing it to a degree. States members don't run the commissions. Whether they can be called to account by the commission, they should be, like the tribunals. They should be called, like the courts. They should be. Whoever's running the show should be accountable for what they're doing. Then the role of the states members, elected states member, is less and less and less. And the irony is, of all the bodies, the parishes, the 12 parishes, would be ideal to have an employed civil servant working to run them, not a constable, a civil servant to run them, and who is accountable for what goes on in the parishes. It'd be a much better system.
How will the civil servant be held to account? How will he be accountable, or she?
Well, obviously there's still a parish. There will still be a parish structure of some sort. There will still be people living there who will complain about their bins not being emptied. And there is such things. There's a complaints board, still is a complaints board about decisions and activities or failures of the system. That's the thing. That is going to be expanded. That is going to be, but it cuts out states members. You see, even that system, it used to be the complaints board. You make a complaint against State's Department. It was always said when it was set up by Jeanne that the president or whatever it was, of that department should appear before the tribunal. They don't now. They don't appear. It's only the civil servants. You finish up arguing with the civil servants. Well, make them accountable. Make the civil servants fully accountable for their actions.
How?
Well, ultimately, they're like everybody else who does something wrong.
We can't vote a civil servant out. So what
no,
can we
but
do?
if they volunteer to do the job, they take the money, take all the terms, all the they have to be accountable. They have to be liable in law.
Who sacks them, and who disciplines them, and who sacks them?
Well, there's a structure to the civil service. I mean, we've got somebody. Everybody knows Charlie. He's head of it. He's supposed to be good or bad, whatever you think about him. Ultimately, there's what's going on at the prison. They've sacked the governor. Somebody has, or the governor has resigned. We don't know. We, the public, don't know actually what's going on. We're not allowed to know. The rumour is, true or not, it is Charlie's decision-making which has forced the governor to leave. That's a matter that ought to go to a public, open tribunal, so we can discover, we know what's happening.
So in that case, the Home Affairs Minister should be telling us what's happened.
He is, but he's not.
He's not, so therefore, I suppose that does substantiate your argument. What's the point of having a Home Affairs Minister there?
That's exactly what I'm saying. The Education Minister's way, not telling us what's going on with the exam. If you're on holiday and something like this blows up, you should come back from holiday. You should be there.
I think the Education Minister was on staycation. I don't think she left the island.
Well, she could, all the easier for her to come and answer then. Say, I mean, but this isn't.
But that's where we did have the Assistant Minister, didn't we? Jeremy Massol.
Is he accountable? He's not, is
At
he?
the ballot box he is.
No, that's too slow, and that's no good. If my kid is, I was speaking to somebody now, they want to know whether their child can go to university next year. Not only is the question arising now about qualifications, they don't even know about funding. People have got this incredible uncertainty. Besides which, the education one is a very good place because it was a computer-generated decision. And that's what the agenda, the ultimate deep down agenda is e-gov. That's what they want. Social Security office used to better go in there from the front door and speak to somebody. Now you can't. You've got to speak to them electronically. They don't want to see you. They don't want to deal with the public. I mean, there's no parking outside. That's another thing. Or virtually, you park on a yellow line, get a ticket if you like. But that is the future. That is the future. The planning office, Deputy Young, I haven't got a planning department, he says. I haven't got a department. And this is the way it's going, isn't it? What's his role? What is his role? He'd be there for 2 more years. He's going to retire in 2 years. I think he's probably had the guts for. All of a sudden, it's...
Well, basically, isn't he himself saying, look, I haven't actually got a ministry. I've got, he's not in control of it, isn't it? Is that what he's saying?
He's agreeing. But somebody's running the show. Somebody will produce a 10-year plan. Somebody will do an island plan. I mean, your big thing, for years and years, you've been lobbying about children, children's rights, children's abuse. What's actually happened? What are states members actually doing about it? It's number one priority, supposed to be.
Well, they're doing what they've always done, is go through the motions. Like I know now there's a scrutiny panel meeting going. The Care of Children and Review panel are conducting a review into recommendation 7 of the Care Inquiry.
So far in private,
yeah. But I've got to say now, it's just they're going to go through the motion, put out a report. The report's going to sit on a shelf gathering dust like any other scrutiny report has ever done. So I do, in that respect, agree with you. Think, what's the bloody point?
Now, in that instance, we've got a commissioner there who is a live wire. She's actually trying to do things, promote things. But what can I do? What can I do if she does something wrong? If I does that, what can I do about it? Nothing I can do about it. She's not answerable to my state's member, is she? What's the relationship between me and her? She's just, she keeps saying, I'm independent. Okay, great. But there's also a minister for children. There's also a children's rights officer. God knows what they do. And every state's member is supposed to have an obligation on children. But handing it over like Andium Homes or handing it over to the Charity Commissioner, handing it over to another body which isn't directly answerable to the public, this is a terrible, terrible weakness in the system, and it's developing, it's growing.
Isn't that what we're going to have to do, going by your argument, getting rid of all politicians? That's all that's left, isn't it? Hand it over to Andium, hand it over to the Commissioner.
Well, it's happened. That effectively has happened. That's what's already happened. The politicians are already superfluous. They don't do what they wanted. The dream was not... I had a dream. Remember the famous saying? Well, that dream is dead. That dream is absolutely dead. And I'm afraid the political class that we've got in this island, some want change, but they don't foresee what's actually... Look at the SARC situation, as I've mentioned it. It's collapsing, and that will happen. And look at the Guernsey situation. 3 political parties formed in a week before the election. I mean, there's one political party. Is it effective as a political party? What's the purpose of a political party? What can they do that's any different? Why, I mean, there will still be individual elected people. What will they do? Nothing. We might as well just get rid of them and make the people who do make the decisions, civil servants, if that's what they are, make them accountable, make them fully accountable.
That'll be the problem, is making them accountable. Like I say, at least with ministers and politicians, we can make them accountable at the ballot box. We can't hold civil servants to account.
You can. If they're employed, they take the job. They take the responsibility, and they take the accountability. They take it all on. That goes with the job. If Charlie makes a mess of his job, he goes. That's what he has to do.
And who fires him? He's a top man.
Well, there is a structure of the civil service. There is a structure within it, and that can be given the powers. Like they got rid of your friend, the chief of police. How did he go? He was suspended. We never ever found out the truth of what actually happened.
Well, that was all done through basically the law officers department. And
indeed. Well, this is how the system works. But have any states members been effective in finding out and apologising to him and all this stuff? Has that all happened?
There have been a number of them. At the time we had Deputy Trevor Pittman, we had Deputy Mike Higgins, Daniel Wimberley, Deputy Bob Hill. Right. There were, but unfortunately, their voices were just basically silenced, if you like. Former Senator Stuart Simery.
If we believe in those cases there was a wrong done, there was wrong.
Well, there was wrong.
Somebody has got to be held accountable. Now, they can't hold the state's members, elected members. They will say, well, we're not there to interfere with administrative decisions and all the rest of it. Well, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to cover them.
Well, again, it came out in the Care inquiry that the former Home Affairs Minister, Andrew Lewis, lied to the inquiry, the Jersey Independent Jersey Care inquiry, and lied to the State's Assembly. And, of course, he got a vote of censure. Now, is that...
In this business, in the finance industry, the pirate business, there was a bank, a Middle Eastern bank, local branch, a few weeks ago, was found to be so corrupt they had to close it down. Now, okay, the public isn't involved in that. So it went to the courts. It went to a tribunal, another independent tribunal, supposedly. The Crown officers were involved, all this, amongst themselves. And there were staff, people working there, would have lost their jobs. Nobody, as far as I know, I don't know whether the Financial Services Commission has taken any action. But that's a matter of concern for everybody in the island to know that Jersey is being used for very dubious purposes. Now, that is, okay, that's the business we're in, finance, and it is a very dubious business, finance, but how do we open it up? They say, oh, secrecy, the confidentiality of the client. Never mind about the client, how about the public? That's what we want to know. These guys, the fishermen, how long have they been talking about your fishing rights? How long have they talked about the Granville? Oh, it's wonderful, we got the Granville Agreement. That was 20 years ago.
The Granville Bay Treaty.
Right, the Granville Bay Treaty. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, let's tear it up. It doesn't work. What's happened then? Have the fish changed colour? What's happened?
Well, I think the problem there is, and I could be wrong, but from what I understand with the Granville Bay Treaty, it was signed by the sovereign states. The sovereign states being France and the UK, not Jersey.
Exactly.
So I thought, from my perspective, and I haven't looked into this a great deal, but I think this is going to be opening up a huge can of worms, because our establishment, our bailiffs and everything say, oh, we're independent. The UK can't speak for us.
Well, we had this discussion, didn't we, Brexit, and the implications of Brexit. Nobody wanted to know. I stood as a candidate. I went around the parishes. I got about 2 votes, I think. Nobody wanted to know. We still don't know. We still do not know what Jersey actually wants. We hear a bit from the UK.
Well, we don't know the status of Jersey, do we? Is it a sovereign state? If it is a sovereign state, why didn't Jersey sign, or did it sign, the Granville Bay Treaty? But the way I understand it, that the sovereign state was the UK. So there was a huge can of worms there, isn't there?
Absolutely, of course there is. And what are the individual states members doing, have done, will do about it? Nothing. Because it's beyond them. It's beyond their ability. They're beyond their knowledge. And the system all goes through the Crown officers, the bailiff, the Crown officer, the Lieutenant Governor, that structure. Even if you had effective representatives, that stops it, blocks it. We don't know what goes on. It's all part of the problem. This is where the democratic dream was always in a state of failure. It's certainly in a state of not only failure now, it's in a state of collapse.
But what would be so you're saying that the UK are going to intervene and can intervene as they did in the Turks and Caicos Islands? If they intervene in like Jersey, which I think they should have done years ago because of the judicial and political corruption on this island. But then again, if the UK do that, then we've got another government, which is probably just as corrupt as the bunch we got over here. So, if the UK steps in,
our role in the UK government has to be determined. It's one of those issues which has to be determined. I mean, it's all part of the unresolved problem which they were looking at in 1769. It was the same thing. Their complaints had to go to London, and they had to be resolved in London. And the dictate came down from the Privy Council then that you have to do some reforms, and they did some reforms. And they introduced a little book of laws, 1771 Code of Laws, all that stuff. But all that, okay, that's history. It's like George de Carteret's statue. Oh, that's history. We don't want to know about history. But this is what it's all based upon. This is how it goes on year after year after year. Oh, that's tradition. That's history. That's our culture. It's collapsed. It's collapsing. And Guernsey is the prime. Whatever happens in the Guernsey over the next few weeks will be an absolute eye-opener, because they're having an extraordinary election, all-island election, which people say, oh, I want all-island mandate. Not that there is such a thing as an all-island mandate, but if they split themselves up into parties, and suppose they were 3 parties in the states of Guernsey, okay, that opens up a can of worms then, doesn't it? Where do you get your new ministers from? Where do you choose them? How do you do it? If they are effective, this This party in Jersey doesn't speak as a party. They all pop up. The housing minister pops up. We've got a culture minister, a guy with culture responsibility. They say their own thing. Whether they're saying a party thing, we've no idea. It's so uncohesive. They got 2 years here, if the so-called elected representatives want to get their act together, to sort themselves out what they actually want. 2 years' time, there will be an election here. I don't think it's any important.
But with party politics, wouldn't that bring more accountability? At least then you can sling a government out. Right now, we can't sling a government out.
No, that's
but
right.
if we did have party politics, wouldn't that make it that little bit more accountable?
Well, that's the theory, isn't it? That was the dream in 1769. That was the dream. The Greeks had that dream. I mean, these people, Belarus, Thailand, all these, Lebanon, they've all had that dream. America's got that dream. Look what we shall see the American election in a few weeks for president. I mean, look what they've got. They've got the biggest fool in the world running the most powerful country in the world. That's what democracy, the democratic
well, at least that's
dream
what the
is.
mainstream media tell us anyway.
Well, I'm pretty convinced. You only got to listen to the guy what he's talking about to see that he's a pretty damn stupid man, isn't he?
I'm not going to go on to one about Trump right now, but. Again, I don't believe everything. But because, again, as I say, I'm not paranoid. I'm experienced, and I've seen how much lies, propaganda, and everything that the mainstream media put out. So I don't believe everything.
Indeed, but these are all aspects of the problem, aren't they? How do people get information? Do you get information from your deputy? Do you get information? Where do you get it from?
No, I haven't got a deputy in there that I can say represent me or represent my politics, my deputies.
So where does the working man here? If I represent, I've stood for election. What do you do? You get no feedback at all from the working man. They don't exist. It's an insult to say I'm a working man. That's almost an insult. That belongs to Welsh miners from the 1930s, working men. That doesn't happen in Jersey. We're all in the pirate business. We're a fisherman. You can be an exempt. If you're a fisherman, that's okay. That's respectable. But what are they going to do? We don't know what are people going to do. How is this system capable of being reformed? I don't think it can. We might as well accept the fact. Scrap it. It doesn't work. Plan to eliminate so-called elected representatives. You'll be better off, you'll save money, and you make Reg St Bernard's happy. Reg Lagoa will be happy, because you think he'd saved 49 salaries.
Right. So, democracy's dead, replace it with...
a system that works, or could work.
A system that works with quangos. So quangos and civil servants should be running the island. Well, they are running the island.
They are, accept the reality. That's what we've got to do. We're not accepting the reality. We're pretending that we elect people and they have some input. They don't. It's a dream. It is the dream. It's turned into a nightmare.